Book 1, The Blazing Ronin, Wandering Blades. Chapter 17, Deciphering the Prophecy. Akira stood impassively before the towering obsidian monoliths, his mind still reeling from the revelations that had unfolded over the past few days. The sentient essence of the mystical weed strain, the Saranakusari, had reached out to attune the Ronin's spirit more fully to the infinite truth of creation. Visions and knowledge beyond anything he could have imagined were now burning in Akira's consciousness. The Old One's deepest secrets about the fundamental nature of this existence, the cosmic forces that raged just beneath the surface of perceived reality. And at the center of it all, the inevitability of the defiler's return. That ancient, primordial evil whose insatiable hunger for destruction had first threatened to unmake all of creation in the primordial age. The Ronin's markings flared brilliantly as his piercing emerald gaze swept over the intricate runes and patterns covering the obsidian monoliths. He could sense it now, the infinite truth and ancient prophecies contained within their carved surfaces. Slowly, reverently, Akira extended his hand and allowed his fingertips to brush against the nearest monolith. His markings flared even brighter in response, pulsing in sync with the runes as that same power and significance washed over him. The young warrior gasped, stumbling slightly as a new series of visions exploded across his mind's eye. This time, however, the images and sensations were different. More focused, laden with layers of symbolic meaning and metaphor that seemed to shift and change with each passing second. Akira saw a great celestial battle being waged across the stars, entire realms of existence crumbling as searing emerald flames clashed with swirling tendrils of crimson smoke and shadow. The defiler's insatiable hunger manifested, butting up against the Old One's limitless power in an apocalyptic struggle for dominance. The visions intensified until Akira felt as if he were being overwhelmed once more. Just when he thought his mind could take no more, a strange presence began coalescing amidst the cosmic maelstrom. A series of ornate archways shimmered into focus, their carved surfaces covered in the same pulsing runes and patterns as the monoliths around them. The Ronin's markings burned ever brighter as he recognized the winding paths and constructs. It was the Emerald Path, the means to decipher the Old One's prophecies about the defiler's return. "You perceive the truth at last, Blazing Ronin," a strange, reverberating voice echoed through Akira's consciousness. The infinite depths of knowledge and ancient prophecies contained within these sacred monoliths. The young warrior tensed, his mind struggling to reorient itself as the vision seemed to slow and coalesce. That familiar alien presence began taking shape once more, a sentient force composed of swirling emerald energies. "You!" Akira murmured, his deep voice tinged with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The Saranakusari, the living essence of the mystical weed strain. The alien entity seemed to swell with quiet amusement at the Ronin's words, tendrils of prismatic energy unfurling around them like the petals of a blossoming flower. "Indeed, mortal," the strange voice intoned, its words resonating through Akira's very soul. "I have returned to guide you through the first steps of deciphering the Old One's infinite truth and ancient prophecies." The visions shifted once more, revealing a series of archaic runes and symbols that the Ronin recognized from the Emerald Path's winding constructs. His markings flared brilliantly in response, his entire being resonating with the ancient energies in a way he could not fully comprehend. "These are the signs and portents that were prophesied eons ago," the Saranakusari's voice echoed through Akira's consciousness. "Harbingers of the defiler's inevitable awakening from its eternal slumber, its insatiable hunger stirring once more." The Ronin could only watch in stunned silence as the visions intensified, the runes and symbols rapidly shifting and coalescing into new forms and imagery. He saw Lord Ito, the corrupt shogun who had allied himself with the defiler's dark forces in his quest for power. The visions showed Ito's elite assassins, the Crimson Lotus, being sent out across the lands to sow chaos and discord. Entire villages being slaughtered, their ashes used in blasphemous rituals to weaken the barriers separating the realms. Akira's breath caught in his throat as the runes shifted once more, coalescing into the image of a celestial archway shimmering with power. He recognized it instantly, the construct within Kazeshima, the legendary ninja village, that served as a repository for the Old One's infinite knowledge. The path to the Defiler's return has been laid, Blazing Ronin, the Saranakyosari's voice intoned, its words carrying a dire finality. Ito succeeded in unraveling the wards and protections surrounding the celestial archway, allowing the primordial evil's insatiable hunger to begin leaching into this realm. The visions shifted rapidly, revealing a series of archaic runes and symbols etched across the monolith's carved surface. Akira's markings flared ever brighter, his entire being resonating with the ancient prophecies in a way he could not fully comprehend. "This is where your path truly begins, mortal," the alien entity stated, its voice resonating through the Ronin's consciousness. "You must decipher these runes and symbols, unlock the means to reseal the celestial archway and halt the Defiler's return before it is too late." Akira could only stare at the pulsing runes in stunned silence, his mind struggling to process the enormity of the task being laid before him. He, a mortal warrior granted incredible power, was to be the one to stop that ancient primordial evil from consuming all of creation? It seemed unfathomable, even for one who had witnessed the Old One's limitless abilities firsthand. The Ronin opened his mouth to respond when the Saranakyosari's voice rang out once more, its words taking on a strange undercurrent of intensity. "But you cannot accomplish this task alone, Blazing Ronin. You will need allies, a force powerful enough to cut through the Defiler's insatiable hunger like a blazing emerald star." The visions shifted once more, revealing Akira's gathered vanguard. Kaya, her expression hardened with determination despite her trembling sword grip. Kozue, the towering crimson-armored Ravager seeming to swell with anticipation of the glorious battle to come. Masaru, the grizzled warrior's intense gaze sweeping their surroundings warily. And finally, Hana, the lithe kunoichi assassin standing apart with her kama scythes held at the ready, her eyes burning from within her mask. "These warriors have all sworn their blades to your cause," the sentient presence continued, its voice resonating with quiet power. "But their skills and convictions alone will not be enough to overcome the challenges ahead. They must be remade, reforged into true instruments of the Old One's limitless power." The visions intensified, swirling around Akira in a dizzying kaleidoscope of cosmic energies and alien landscapes. The Ronin could only watch in stunned silence as his allies' forms seemed to shift, their bodies and spirits becoming intertwined with those same emerald forces. "They must become like you, Blazing Ronin," the Saranakyosari's voice echoed through his consciousness. "Imbued with the Old One's infinite truth, their mortal shells elevated to living embodiments of creation's power. Only then will you all be unstoppable, capable of cutting through the Defiler's insatiable hunger and restoring balance to these realms." Akira's mind struggled to process the entity's words, the sheer enormity of what it was offering. His allies, his dearest companions, remade into warriors powerful enough to wield the Old One's limitless energies and abilities. It seemed too incredible to be true, almost unfathomable in its implications. The Ronin opened his mouth to respond when the visions began shifting and intensifying once more. This time, the imagery took on a strange symbolic quality laden with metaphor and deeper meaning. Akira saw a great tree, its branches spanning entire celestial realms as it was consumed by searing emerald flames. The fire seemed to purify the tree, burning away the corruption and decay that had taken root within its timbers. From the smoldering ashes, a sapling emerged, vibrant and overflowing with the Old One's limitless life energies. "The path ahead is one of rebirth and transcendence, Blazing Ronin," the Saranakyosari's voice echoed through the cosmic visions. "You and your warriors must all be unmade and reforged in the fires of oblivion itself, your mortal shells elevated to living embodiments of creation's power." The imagery shifted once more, revealing a series of ornate archways shimmering with energy. Akira recognized them instantly, they were the same constructs that made up the winding path of the Emerald Trail, the means to decipher the Old One's prophecies. "This is the path you must all walk," the alien entity intoned, its voice resonating with the unmistakable weight of destiny. The emerald trail that will lead you through the fires of oblivion and allow you to reattune your spirits to the infinite truth of creation. The visions intensified until Akira felt as if he were being overwhelmed once more. Entire celestial realms seemed to be birthed and dying in the space of a heartbeat, the cosmic forces of creation and destruction given form in an endless cycle of rebirth. And at the center of it all, the Ronin saw himself and his vanguard. But they were different, their forms composed of the same swirling emerald energies as the Saranakusari itself. Living embodiments of the Old One's limitless power, blazing like stars amidst the cosmic maelstrom. Only once you have all transcended your mortal shells will you be unstoppable, the sentient entity's voice echoed through the visions, its words resonating with quiet intensity. Capable of cutting through the defiler's insatiable hunger and restoring balance before the fires of oblivion consume everything. This is your destiny, Blazing Ronin, to lead your warriors through the crucible and emerge remade as true instruments of creation's power. Akira could only watch the visions unfold in stunned silence, his mind struggling to fully comprehend the path being laid out before him. It was unfathomable, the sheer enormity of what the Saranakusari was offering. To lead his warriors on a journey of spiritual transcendence, allowing them to shed their mortal forms and be reborn as living embodiments of the Old One's limitless energies. It seemed too incredible to be true, almost blasphemous in its implications. And yet, the Ronin could not deny the truth burning in the sentient entity's words. He had seen the infinite depths of the Old One's power firsthand, had been imbued with just a fraction of their limitless abilities. If what the Saranakusari claimed was true, that Akira and his allies could undergo the same spiritual rebirth and become living weapons capable of combating the defiler, then it was an opportunity he could not afford to let slip through his grasp. Not with the inevitability of that ancient primordial evil's return looming ever closer, its insatiable hunger threatening to unmake all of creation. The Ronin's markings flared brilliantly as his piercing emerald gaze swept over the gathered vanguard. Kaya, her expression hardened with determination despite her trembling sword grip. Kozue, the towering crimson-armored Ravager seeming to swell with anticipation. Masaru, the grizzled warrior regarding Akira with his usual inscrutable expression. And finally, Hana, the lithe kunoichi assassin studying the Ronin with narrowed eyes, her entire body tense beneath her form-fitting bodysuit. Akira opened his mouth to address them, to lay bare the revelations and infinite truth that had been revealed to him. But before he could speak, the Saranakusari's voice rang out one final time. "The choice is yours, Blazing Ronin," the sentient entity intoned, its words resonating through the Ronin's very being. "But make your decision swiftly, for the defiler's insatiable hunger grows stronger with every passing moment. Soon, it will be too late for even the Old One's limitless power to halt its return." The visions began fading as the alien presence's voice grew fainter and more distorted. Akira felt himself being pulled back towards the material realm once more, his mind's eye going dark as the cosmic energies winked out around him. The last thing he perceived was the Saranakusari's voice, seeming to resonate from everywhere and nowhere all at once. "You are the Old One's greatest champion, the torchbearer destined to lead this existence back from the brink of oblivion. Make your choice, and embrace your path as the living truth of creation reborn." The Ronin's eyes snapped open with a sharp gasp, his entire body covered in a sheen of sweat as he returned to full consciousness. Akira blinked rapidly, struggling to reorient himself as the visions and revelations continued swirling through his mind. He could still feel the Saranakusari's lingering presence, that strange sentient force composed of the mystical weed strain's limitless energies. The living will and essence sent to guide and attune the Ronin to the Old One's infinite truth. Akira's piercing emerald gaze swept over his gathered allies once more, taking in their expressions of concern and wariness. He could sense the undercurrent of trepidation thrumming through them as they studied the intensity burning in his eyes. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the young warrior found his voice. When he spoke, his deep baritone resonated with the unmistakable weight of destiny itself. "Prepare yourselves, my friends," Akira intoned, his pulsing markings flaring brilliantly as his emerald katana seemed to shimmer with ethereal energy. For we stand at the precipice of a path that will elevate us all beyond what any mortal has achieved before. The Ronin leveled his piercing stare at each of his warriors in turn, holding their gazes as he allowed the full implications of his next words to sink in. We are being offered the chance to transcend the limits of this existence. To be unmade and reforged in the fires of oblivion itself, emerging as living embodiments of the Old One's limitless power. A stunned silence fell over the gathered vanguard as Akira's proclamation seemed to linger in the air like a suffocating miasma. He could see the awe, the uncertainty rippling through each of his companions as the true gravity of his words slowly began to sink in. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Kozue found his voice. The towering crimson-armored Ravager leveled his intense stare at the Ronin from within his fearsome mask. "You speak of incredible things, Blazing Ronin," the giant rumbled, his deep voice tinged with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "Powers and abilities far beyond what any mortal warrior could begin to comprehend. Are you certain this path you propose is one we should be treading?" Akira held the Ravager's gaze for a long moment before giving a solemn nod. "I am more certain of this path than I have been of anything in my life, Kozue," the Ronin stated, his deep voice resonating with quiet conviction. "The visions, the infinite truth that has been laid bare before me, it is all leading to one inevitability." Akira's markings flared ever brighter as he leveled his stare at each of his warriors in turn, his next words carrying the unmistakable weight of destiny. "If we are to have any hope of combating the Defiler's return, of cutting through that ancient primordial evil's insatiable hunger, then we must undergo the spiritual transcendence being offered.